We just added a controller and 4 stub view files. Let's take a second and talk about what's going on architecturally when Zend receives a request from the browser. When an HTTP request is received, it first gets routed through the appropriate module. The routing of requests are important, and we're going to cover that in more detail in a minute, but for now, let's just assume that Zend is routing this request to our book controller to show the main index action. Once the Zend module understands which controller it will forward the request to, it locates that controller and calls the appropriate action method. As a Zend developer, you can place any kind of code or logic in the action method, and typically you'll be gathering data and preparing it for display. In the book controller that we just added, we left those methods empty for now, and we'll eventually fill them in when we get our database tables and models in place in the next module of this course. When the action method is done processing, Zend forwards control to the view templates. These templates are typically named the same as your action method, but can be different if you need them to be. The only exception is you don't add the action portion onto the template name. So if you have a method called indexAction, the template is simply index.phTML. The templates contain HTML and PHP scriptlet code that allow you to take dynamic information from your controller and display it in the HTML. Once the view has finished rendering the final HTML, Zend will send that back as the response. So as requests come in and the controllers respond to them and the responses are sent out, a lot of that functionality is bought and paid for by the book controller's parent class, which is the Zend Abstract Action Controller. So that's how the action controller is able to find the index.phTML and then send the response back, and it can also marshal any kind of incoming request headers or parameters. So far, we have this overview set up for our application, but Zend isn't set up to route everything correctly yet. So we're going to go ahead and take a moment and talk about Zend route endpoints and setting those up.